Welcome to the Extreme Channel. My name is Mr. X, and this statue will certainly win some awards this year because First of all, it is absolutely huge. I did not expect it to be this big.
That's what she said.
This bitch weighs over 130 pounds. It won't even turn on the turntable. One of the most difficult to assemble. Yes, even worse than this Devastator right here. And after I film this, I'm scared to death. Not because I have the Skull Knight on horse from Berserk in front of me, but I have to move this. So before I move it, let's do an in-depth review. Son of a bitch, that's big. As the Extreme Channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we're giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey, welcome to the Extreme Channel. My name is Mr. X. Today we are looking at Prime One Studios' Skull Knight on Horse statue. This is from Berserk, which is a manga. I just like saying manga. That I got into a few years ago because of these statues from Prime One Studio. So I own about half a dozen of them and a few more coming. Actually, stay tuned. In a few days, we're actually going to review Casca. The storyline and the statues are both unbelievable. So this is 1/4 scale, meaning in real life, the Skull Knight would be 4 times larger, which is crazy. But today I'm going to do my best to do an in-depth review. The angle is pretty bad. I wanted to get the entire statue in. I'm sure my voice is echoing because I have to stand back. But nonetheless, we're going to do the in-depth review using the traditional categories. And then, my God, I have to move it, and I really, really don't want to. So let's kick it off with concept. And I'm going to move around a little bit, which means my voice will probably raise and lower. But concept of this piece is absolutely amazing. What they did is they took the Skull Knight on horse. They followed a lot of what they're doing with their traditional Berserk line, but they just made him the badass he is. So on the bottom here, you have the base they've been using for their entire Berserk line, which I like. Kind of this castle type style on the bottom with this ornate writing on top, and then a symbol on the front. I believe this is his symbol. Now I'm only on chapter 8, so as we move up through some of this, I am going to get some of this wrong. However, you see the base is completely bloodied with enemies. Some of these enemies I've seen, some of them I have not. And there's a ton of stuff going on in the back as well. So it's almost an injustice that you're only seeing the front. But it looks like a crazy war zone. One could argue that it's too much. And the horse, he is being attacked here or he's defeating the enemies. Now he's an apostle, which means he's not a god, but he's somewhere in between a man and a god. Again, I might find out more in the future chapters. But his horse is only on its hind legs, trying to get away or trying to stomp on all these creatures below. And his horse, just like him, is fully armored out. So as I said, he is kind of this being of the dead. At least I haven't read his clear history yet, but whenever he comes in, he's a pretty big badass. Nobody wants to mess with him. He also has some magical powers, like he can see the future, and he wants to keep everything flowing, make sure everyone follows the proper rules. So he's actually intervened sometimes when he shouldn't. Like, I believe he was the one that saved Guts when Griffith was turned into Femto. And he is fighting, so he's got his shield and his sword. And there are some switch-out options that we actually don't have, but I'll talk about those during design. But he is armored up, his cape is flowing, it is a mixed media cape. Him and his horse are either fighting this battle, trying to get away from it, whatever it is. And he can fly as well, so maybe they're taking off, who knows. But it's a pretty cool concept that they captured. But I'm going to argue that it's almost too busy. So it's not like absolutely amazing, but I think it's a 4 out of 5 on the concept. It's very strong. Now as we move into design, like I said, there was issues with that as well. And honestly, of all the Berserk pieces I've owned, this one is probably one of the weaker ones despite how cool it is with the character and the size. Now here's a non-traditional unboxing and assembly. This statue came in 4 boxes. Yes, 4, which is crazy. And as you can see, UPS destroyed the shit out of them. They each had an art box on the inside, obviously in the pose of the statue like Prime One Studio. 5 different layers. Here's the first layer. So many different pieces. I didn't count, but I'm guessing it's probably near 50 or so, which made the assembly a little bit difficult. The base is huge. It's 24 inches or so. Here is another box which had the horse. And as we talked about earlier, this weighs a lot. Every piece does. The base, the horse, the actual Skull Knight rider weighs a lot, and even some of the pieces in the base that you see here. There was a hidden compartment, so make sure not to miss that. And inside that was his mixed media cape. You can see it right here. And of course, I used Prime One Studios assembly video because there were so many different pieces. This is the last layer right here. So I'm almost thinking when I move him right after this, I'm probably going to have to take him apart. Now for exact dimensions, go to Comet Concepts website. That's where I get the majority of my Prime One Studio statues. I'll talk more about them later. But you're about 24, 25 inches on the base here. And then of course it sticks out a little bit more with all of these tentacles. So the highest point is probably arguably the ears, which is 36 inches. So easily one of the biggest quarter scale statues out there. Now I had a few design issues. One is this claw right here, which goes in, I think one of these tentacles right up here won't sit. So I think they forgot to put a magnet in it, which is really unfortunate. Also, there are some light up features. So first, here's the skull, not lit up. And then the skull lit up, and that's with watch batteries. Now the horse actually is supposed to light up too. Mine lit up for 2 seconds, then died. So again, an issue, but I rarely use light up features, so I'm not worried about it. This I can figure out later. Now there are some other display options. So they made two versions of these. This is the regular, it's the cheaper version. Besides the light up features, there's only one switch out option. First, you have this blue flaming sword. It's kind of cool the effect they did on it. Then you have a normal sword, and honestly, I like them both. Now the deluxe version has a switch out arm where you can have the sword either down to the side or up front. Also has a different portrait that is based off of the early drawings, I believe, the early conceptual drawings. Now we'll talk more about those when we get to value of this piece. So design-wise, it was a pain in the ass to put together. I'm a little worried about how much weight is distributed on the back of the hooves here, but as you saw, there's a metal pole you also insert. But 130 pounds is just so much fucking weight. I am worried over time something will happen to this, and it was a pain in the ass to put together. Some of the things like the stirrups don't even hold on very well. So really a bad job by design, in my opinion, by Prime One Studio. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 because it's a very ambitious project. Normally I'd probably give it a 2 out of 5 with all the issues and how difficult it was to put together. But I think a 3 out of 5 is just, unless there are future issues with this piece. Paint and sculpt. Now traditionally Prime One Studio knocks it out of the park. They still did a good job on this one, but not great, I would say. I legitimately don't even know where to start. So I guess we can try and start with the base here. And again, I have limited turnability, but it has the same embroidered base that most of them do. That kind of castle effect on the bottom with the silver on gray embroidered base around the sides with his symbol on the front. It looks fine. The paint actually looks a little sloppy, which surprises me for Prime One Studio, but nothing I'm gonna lose sleep over. The bottom, again, if you don't like blood, you're not gonna like it. Total bloodied up everywhere. You can see the blood spilling all over. It has kind of a moist effect to help it going on top of what would assume was supposed to originally be mud or dirt. Now all the different creatures, again, this is where you don't know where to start. They do look fantastic. And some of these, as I said before, I haven't got to in the series yet. Some I may have forgot about. But there's so much cool detail. These tentacles, for example, look like long tongues with spikes or kind of claws. Kind of reminds me of Sideshow's Gladiator Hulk. Very similar to that, but again, I like the moist glistening effect they added not only to the tips here, almost looks like an enamel, pretty cool. And then of course these tentacles or tongues that are coming out with tons of blood on the bottom and kind of that pink tissue feel on top. You see some skulls that are embedded into the base down there, kind of this gray color. So many different colors going on. There's the hoof of the horse, what you can see, but again, a tentacle is grabbing it. Then this guy right here that's fallen, that's coming out of the ground. Again, I haven't ran into him, but he is destroyed, he's dead. So the tentacles could belong to him because you see them coming out of his mouth. But again, great job on the paint here by Prime One Studio. The sculpt's kind of hard to judge simply for the fact that, hang on, make sure the sword doesn't hit my head. You're not sure what he's supposed to look like in real life. Now here's one that's still alive that he's trampling over. Another one coming out of the ground there, but the tentacles have him as well. So it's really just like this crazy battle mess. You don't know whose side is on who, like we talked about. And I think they did a really nice job with the base. While it is busy, we're more focusing on the paint and sculpt right now. Here's a better shot of those skulls. I think it looks great. Now, the fabric. So you have fabric, and I still have a few foam pieces on here, both on the horse. There's some right here. The reins are obviously mixed media. Have a dirt effect on the bottom, and that's the same for his cape. Clearly, you couldn't do mixed media as we talked about because it would be too difficult to, it'd weigh too much. But so there is a lot of fabric covering everything, but really quick, the horse itself I think looks okay. The armor really adds to it. It looked kind of stupid with the horse helmet off, but not really a typical horse, so there's not like fur or anything embedded into it. But the silver on the armor, it's not as shiny as I thought it would be, which is kind of good because Berserk is so dark. So it's more of this spray painted silver. And there are some cracks in it with almost some red lines insinuating maybe blood, which is good because it wouldn't be super clean. But I wouldn't want it necessarily super bloody either. So you see that throughout, whether it's the armor on the horse or the armor on him. Turn it here to the other side. Actually, let's look at this sword really quick. Looks good. A lot of silver though. I mean, and it's fine because it's broken up by different parts. Like on his ribs here, you see the black in between. You see the leather on the straps down here, which looks pretty good, really old and worn. The picture of the angel, or whatever that is on front, the woman. Here's this horse hoof. Looks much better in my opinion. Again, has a glossy effect right on the hoof there. Here's a better shot of the actual horse and the eye. The eye is translucent, so you can see that light up feature through it. But here's his portrait. I think it looks great. They did a really nice job bringing it to life. It's not super detailed, but I don't think it needs to be. Here's another shot of the side. Yeah, a lot of this isn't really like variations that I can talk about. It's just kind of showing you these close-ups here. So when it comes to paint and sculpt, there's a few of the foam pieces I need to get off. Horsetail, let's look at that really quick. Doesn't compare to the X-Men Batman Samurai tail in my opinion. I do like the shading they added into it, but it's too bunched together in my opinion. But I do like how it folds over. So definitely not one of the best when it comes to paint and sculpt, but it's not bad either. Here's his shield. Get a little red to kind of mix it up. So much to look at, and I'm sure I missed some of it. I like the base a lot better than the Skull Knight, but the Skull Knight is what this piece is about. So I think sculpt, it's 3 out of 5. You don't see the micro detail that you've been seeing in a lot of their other pieces, but it's not bad. And I would almost say the same is true about paint. While it's clean, it just doesn't knock my socks off. I think you could argue the paint's better than the sculpt, but I'm still going to give it a 3 out of 5 on this piece. All right, so let's talk about, is this piece worth it? Because it is expensive, it is rare. They only made 250 of these total. So 250, and now 100 are the ones I have without those additional switch outs that I just didn't care for. So I thought I'd save some money because this one is actually $250 cheaper than the deluxe where they made 150 of those. That retailed at $28.50, this retailed at $2,600 plus shipping. Now, as I said, with Prime One Studio, especially large pieces like this, I go through Comic Concepts because they get me great deals on shipping, You're cheaper than retail. Great customer service. Make sure to check them out. There's a non-affiliate link in the description below. I'm a big fan. Thank you so much, Comic Concepts. Now, I'm not arguing what you get for your money. You get a rare statue of a badass character, and it's huge. So I do approve of the price tag. But that is a lot of money to spend on this. But the other thing with value is Berserk pieces traditionally go for more than retail. The one exception I would say to this guy is not a lot of people can display it. And when I ship it off, shipping is going to be outrageous. 130 pounds plus 4 boxes. But I still think I could make a profit on this if I wanted to sell it, which I don't. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 on the value. Now, does this have the X factor? If you're new to the channel, this category isn't cumulative. It's not adding up all the previous scores. It's when you walk in, is this a badass statue? Size does play a lot into that. So I'm going to say that, yes, this is a 5 out of 5 statue. It does have the X factor. It is an amazing piece. It's going to kind of overshadow the rest of the Berserk collection. If you want to see what he looks like, I built a brand new display for it. Check out the Extreme Channel social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. The link for those is in the description below. But I had a great time with you guys today. Actually, you weren't here when I filmed this, so I had a great time by myself, which is always healthy too and encouraged, especially in adult men. So make sure to comment below about the statue, not about having a great time by yourself, because you could win a statue. We will be giving all of these statues away, plus additional ones at every 5,000 subscriber milestone. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Again, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you tuning in. If you see me on the next video and I throw out my back, you know it's from moving this. So leave a comment below, hit that like. It's easy, free, and it really helps me. Check out some of these other videos. Take care.